Last night in this program, we broke a story for you. We told you that two separate sources that we spoke to directly told us that the lobbyist Tony Podesta, of course, a huge fundraiser for Bill and Hillary Clinton, the brother of Hillary's campaign chairman, had been offered criminal immunity by Robert Mueller in return for testifying against Paul Manafort, with whom he worked to lobby on behalf of Ukraine once upon a time. Well, we asked the obvious question when we heard this: what distinguishes Tony Podesta from Paul Manafort, who, by the way, is behind bars facing life, now in solitary confinement? Well, maybe the answer is only one of them supported Donald Trump. We're happy to root out all the unregistered foreign agents in this country, but the law should apply to everybody, not just people who support a president Washington despises. Joe DeGenova has been in Washington a long time. He's a former U.S. attorney for the District of Columbia, and he joins us tonight. So, Joe, as we said last night, I want to restate now, we spoke to two separate sources who told us, who were close to this question, that Tony Podesta, former head of the Podesta Group, the biggest Democratic lobbying firm in Washington, had been offered immunity by the Mueller investigation in exchange for testifying against Paul Manafort. If that is true, what does it mean?
It means that the Mueller investigation has now reached a level of debasement akin to the 9th level of hell in Dante's Inferno. It also means that if you're a Democrat, you get a pass. There are two standards of justice in this town being carried out by the Department of Justice under both administrations and the FBI under both administrations. The FBI and the DOJ under Obama gave Hillary Clinton a pass. They ignored criminal violations and found her innocent when, in fact, she had violated the law. They immunized her lawyers. They immunized her staff. They immunized the people who bleached her computer. All of them were Democrats. And now in the prosecution of Paul Manafort, who do they immunize first? The person who broke the law, just like allegedly Paul Manafort did, helped the Russians, helped some phony Ukrainians, and what does Bob Mueller do first? He immunizes a guilty Democrat.
So give us some perspective on the FARA law, Foreign Agent Registration Act of 1938. It's been around a long time.
Yes.
In 50 years, between 1966 and 2016, 7 people were prosecuted under it. 7
Yes.
in 50 years. In the past year, we've had 3 people prosecuted under it, all of them connected to Donald Trump. Does this seem like selective enforcement of the law to you?
Well, there's no doubt that it does. And even though it technically is within the power of a prosecutor to make these types of decisions, what you are seeing rolled out now by Robert Mueller, the esteemed Mr. Mueller, is the degradation of the federal criminal law enforcement process. And you can thank Rod Rosenstein, the Deputy Attorney General, who set up this phony investigation, and Christopher Wray, the current FBI director, who has never once put on his big boy pants and is allowing this to happen. This is an embarrassment to federal law enforcement. Every FBI agent, every DOJ lawyer who's worth his or her salt knows that what you are watching is a debasement of federal law enforcement. It ought to be an embarrassment to somebody like Mueller, but the truth is Mueller has stayed too long at the fair.
Joe DeGenova, former federal prosecutor, thank you very much. Michael Caputo was an advisor to the Trump campaign. He has been around the block in this Russian nonsense, and he joins us tonight. Michael, what is your response to the news, again, from two sources telling us Tony Podesta has been offered immunity in order to testify against Paul Manafort? What would that mean from your point of view, if true?
Well, it's completely disgusting, Tucker. I can't think of another word for it. This is very clearly partisan. Tony Podesta didn't just represent the Ukrainians and didn't register for them. He actually registered for Uranium One and Rosatom. He represented Sberbank, which is, that's like representing directly Vladimir Putin. Sberbank is Vladimir Putin's hip pocket bank. From my perspective, they're probably giving him immunity, not just because he can do something to hurt Paul Manafort, because they certainly don't want him talking about Uranium One and Sberbank. If there was somebody in Washington representing the Russians in 2016, it was Tony Podesta. And by the way, Tucker, there are 17 Democrats who registered for Russian companies that were connected to the Kremlin or actually registered to represent the Kremlin. And those are just the ones who were registered. As you know, Washington is lousy with people doing the bidding of foreign countries without registering.
Yeah, I mean, They're literally everywhere. They're on my street. They're on everybody's street in the entire city, which is why to see the FARA law applied in the way it has been in the last year is just bewildering. And by the way, I'm not against it. I don't think people should lobby for foreign governments without registering. But to see it applied only to one side is genuinely shocking.
Well, I think you hit it on the head.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I think you hit it on the head. FARA only matters if you know Donald Trump. I mean, certainly lobbying for foreign countries is completely legal in the United States. But if you do it and you work for Donald Trump or you knew Donald Trump, you're headed for problems.
As far as I can tell, the biggest and most effective foreign lobbyists in Washington are not registered under FARA. So maybe that will change. Hope so. Michael, great to see you.
Great to see you, Tucker. Thanks for the invitation.